Good day and welcome back to another DBZ Dokkan medal video. In this video we are going to take a look at the energetic fighter Pandel. So essentially she's one of the fusion units. She received an EZA recently, obviously on DBZ Dokkan Medal Global, as part of the Dragon Ball Fusions Extreme Z battle. And she becomes a Int-type Ki +3 and a HP attack and defense of 100%. She also causes supreme damage to enemies and lowers their attack and defense. In terms of passive, she has attack and defense of 150% and also gives all allies attack and defense of 30%. She also has plus an additional attack and defense of 10% and a chance of evading enemies' attacks, including super attacks, plus 7% per fusion category ally on the team. So overall, a much needed upgrade. She has Battlefield Diva, GT, Infighter, the Saiyan Lineage, Fused Fighter, and Shattering the Limit as her links, and she also has Pepe Gal's Fusion, Hybrid Saiyans, Crossover, and of course, well, no other category. She only really has 4 categories right now. She's a pretty decent unit. Obviously with her passive and the way it functions, she's definitely much better on fusion based teams, but she should be pretty good on the crossover team just due to the strength of the team plus the variety of fusion options that exist on that team. Overall, she's a pretty good floating unit, I feel. She has an attack and defense buff for all allies of 30%, which is pretty solid and quite reliable. We're going to try her on the fusion category first, and then we'll be trying her on the crossover category. So yeah, she's on the fusion team right now, which means we are currently getting the full benefit of her passive. So when she is on a fusion team, she's obviously getting a pretty good buff overall. She gets attack and defense of 10% per unit, so we're looking at a 60% attack and defense buff alongside close to a 50% evasion skill, and if you include the friend category unit, you are looking at almost pretty much 50%. You're looking at 49% in total, so it's a pretty good shot at evasion, a pretty decent amount. So yeah, overall she's looking pretty solid. I think for the most part she's definitely more of a floating unit, with giving every other unit in the team, or at least on rotation I should say, a 30% attack and defense buff. She is pretty powerful in that way. She will give some additional strength to her allies, which is great. A problem with her and with some of the fusion units is their low base stats. So even though they have pretty impressive passives, you're not going to see the most insane stats from them in terms of defense and attack and that, because they're not necessarily bringing like big huge stat numbers to the table. They're bringing very okay stats, decent stats, but nothing too crazy, but still a very good EZA, especially considering the strength of the fusion category. She does really help out the fusions category quite a bit, just providing them with an additional floating support, a very decent attack option and things like that. So for the most part she's really good, and I do like what she brings to the table. She's going to be most effective in events like Super Battle Road, Extreme Super Battle Road, places where her evasion's really going to come in handy, and she's really going to be able to help everyone out and do a lot of good work. So for me, she's pretty good. I do like what she brings. I think in terms of link set, she's a little bit limited. So Fused Fighters is a link that helps her out on the fusion team. Shattering the Limit is an okay key link across the board. Saiyan Lineage is also an okay key link. GT is also a okay key link. And Battlefield Diva is also okay key link. So she's got quite a lot of diverse key links, but she doesn't really have a whole bunch more to bring to the table. So for me, she's not necessarily the most incredible unit overall. She's just a pretty solid unit, a unit that's going to do some decent workload but not really do too much else. So yeah, for me, she's okay. She's definitely quite decent, but yeah, I think in terms of the fusion units and things like that, she'll definitely bring the most like viability to a fusions team. She'll be really good in short form content, and I think that's like the most she'll bring to the table. I don't really think she'll excel much elsewhere, especially with most late form or long form events, really bringing a lockdown on evasion overall. Of course, we're kind of seeing some okay attack stats from this Pandel. We're looking at like 1.6 million, which is okay. Obviously, you can factor in the amount of support she's giving the rest of the rotation. 30% into attack and defense is a pretty good amount. So I would definitely measure her up on that rather than her sole attack. And that's kind of why I just use her as a floating unit. As a floating unit, she's really solid. She debuffs the enemy, she provides support to your entire rotation, and she also obviously has the evasion mechanic, which is quite helpful in the final slot. Just the ability to evade attack and defense is very, very, very strong. So it's something you can look at using, and it is really, really reliable and helpful in these kind of situations. So yeah, overall a pretty decent unit, I would say. A nice EZA, but not necessarily the most insane one. So like, she's absolutely insane. Obviously, one benefit of doing this showcase is we do get to see the Gogeta link up, which is a very, very powerful link up, by the way. Very, very potent. This year 3 LR and this LR Gogeta really do a incredible amount of damage. So really, really cool combination to run, and quite defensively powerful. It's going to be very interesting to see one day when the year 3 LRs get their EZA, exactly how powerful this duo will become. Because this is a 55% tech Gogeta, so it's definitely quite interesting how hard they can hit, and it's really, really cool. So yeah, that's it for the fusion team. Pretty good, pretty solid run. She brought a decent amount to the table. But we can definitely see the limits of her build. This is a 2-dupe Pandel, and she did really solid, but I wouldn't say she was absolutely beastly, but still a much better performing unit overall. If we take a look at how she performed here on the crossover team, we'll get a good idea of how she does with a lot less fusion units. We don't have any on the team, barring Belpan, so it's going to be interesting to see how she performs here. And this Pandel, keep making the same mistake. This Pandel does have 2 dupes, so this is a decent representation of what a quite powerful version of the unit should be doing. But yeah, so we'll see her on the crossover category, pretty decent category overall. Obviously, quite rampantly grown in power over the last couple of months. A really, really powerful category. That does quite a lot of good work nowadays, with a quite large variety of units. So we should get a decent idea of how she performs here, and yeah, a nice little glimpse into her on an alternate category. Obviously, we are running quite a bit of support in terms of just her overall functionality. So we might not see the true restraints of Pandel. We might not see the full diminishing returns on Pandel and things like that, but overall we should get a decent idea of if she can put up the same, if not similar numbers. So yeah, but like I said, pretty solid. I would say she might be the worst out of the fusions. It'll be interesting to see how the other ones perform. It's going to be difficult because I don't have all the necessary Kais that I need, but we should be able to see just how good the Pandel is overall, and we should be able to see how she does in general, just as a unit, and just decently. Here she's got a lot of support on the rotation, so she's putting up some very good defense numbers, sitting around that 150k mark, which is really, really solid. Then if we take a look at her, and we see how she's going, damage wise, still 1.6 million, and her links don't really get the biggest buff. They don't get the biggest huge buff ever. They don't get a massive huge buff. They don't get a big like increase. They're only like 5% attack and defense when you get them to link level 10. So it's not really like something that I think you should generally focus on, just because it's, yeah, the link levels aren't worth it. They're not going to increase her production to the point where she's going to really like top out and do like a huge amount of damage. They're not going to increase her. She doesn't have like a big bad bosses style link where, you know, all of a sudden she's going to just start doing a huge amount of extra damage. It's just kind of it. This is just how much she does, which is pretty decent, but it's not necessarily the greatest amount overall. So yeah, we'll get a good look at her here. Obviously now we've got a link with support, her best partner. Her defense does drop, obviously, because she doesn't have a lot of defensive links sitting with Belpan, but we'll see how her offense changes. And I think even the double support, yeah, 1.5, even, you see, her links don't give her a lot. So even, because they're all key links, they don't give her a lot. So even just having double supports actually just does better for Pandel. Like overall, she's just better with double supports because she just does more damage. She just actually does more work with more support because they provide more than her links, which is very rare nowadays, but it can happen. She's not necessarily like, I mean, not every unit has, like I said, these huge powerful links and things like that. So yeah, definitely does better with double support. So but as a unit overall, she's a floating unit. She's not really meant to be prioritized like this. She's not meant to be focused on. She's just meant to be there as a support and as a way to buff up other allies in the team, whilst also providing debuffing and a solid level of evasion. So yeah, I think for the job she has, she's pretty good. I think if you're looking for someone to give some additional support to your fusion category, she's definitely a really good unit for that, and she'll bring some good utility to ESBR and SBR and things like that. So yeah, for the most part, pretty good from Pandel. Really quite happy with how she's done. And I think overall she's a really solid unit. So yeah, that's pretty much it. We saw that final attack stat from her. Again, a pretty similar defense stat. Defense stat, evasion wise, she's pretty solid. Attack stat wise, she's a little bit lackluster. But yeah, that's really about it. And yeah, we'll just go take a look at her link performance. See how she links. By the way, this Belpan isn't easy aid, in case anyone's wondering. I'm avoiding easy aiding her so that we don't get a sneak peek at how well she does. But yeah, so that's it for the crossover team. Now we'll just jump across and measure up her links and see how she goes there. See what her links do and if there's really any point in her links or linking her with anyone, or who she links well with. If you do want to focus on Pandel or prioritize her, at least you can know who to prioritize her with and on what teams. So yeah, obviously in terms of links, we'll take a look at it now, but Pandel, like I said before, doesn't really gain much from her links. If we take a look, Battlefield Diva gains 1 key and 5% evasion chance, which she already has a pretty high evasion chance. She does get attack and defense of 10% from GT, probably her most powerful link, an additional 5% attack from Infighter, an additional 5% attack and defense from the same lineage, 5% attack and defense from Fused Fighter, and 5% attack and defense from Shattering the Limit. So if you were to somehow activate every single one of these links, you would be looking at an additional 25% attack and defense, alongside an additional key and 5% evasion chance. And if you can activate Infighter, another 5% on top. So we're looking at about 30% attack, 25% defense. Not insignificant, but very difficult to activate all at the same time, unless you are rocking Belpan, who is her perfect partner. Now, a bright side is that, of course, Belpan is on pretty much every single one of her teams. So Belpan as a unit is essentially the exact same thing as Pandel. So Belpan, really cool, exists on the Pepe Girls, the Fusion team, the Hybrid Saiyans team, the Youth team, the Crossover team, and the Fused Fighters team. So she's a pretty solid unit overall. She's on quite a few categories, pretty much every single category with Pandel, I believe. So yeah, quite solid overall. She gains quite a lot of buffs with obviously fusion-based allies in the exact same turn. She also provides key to all allies above a certain health threshold, so she's a very good running partner with Pandel, and obviously your optimal partner if you don't have other options. But overall, you shouldn't really focus on Pandel's links. You should really just mainly be focusing on using her as a floating unit, just so you can give the buff to the rest of the rotation, really help out your team without actually focusing with her as the main unit. Although she is a solid unit now, she's not necessarily going to output nearly the level of damage some of the priority fusion or Pepe Gals or hybrid sands or crossover or youth or any of those units will be putting out. So it's not really someone you should be focusing on. It's realistically speaking like not something you should be focusing on overall. The B-Pan is a good linking partner with her. Unfortunately, they are only on hybrid sands together. They're not on GT, even though they have GT as a link. It is a little bit strange, but hey, it is what it is. But that's going to be it from me, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video. Leave a like if you did, or leave a comment if you have any thoughts or opinions on Pandel, or if you guys have any other comments about the video. But that's it from me. Take care, stay safe, and bye.